All right, let's try this again. I'm a weird dude. I'm a weird dude. Um, One of my favorite movies is Minority Report. Big sci-fi fan. I saw that movie in theaters. Um, I think a part of me thinks that and AI are favorite films because those were the only films I really saw with mom before she died. And I kind of, took me a long time to get beyond that. I'm still kind of that kid inside. And so, you know what I mean? It's like PTSD. There's people who are prisoners of war that don't like to hear slamming doors or the smell of pig frying up or, just certain things bring them back. Certain things that the average person is like my grandfather, example, he didn't like fireworks. And you could tell he had really, I guess over time you deal with it, but when he was, even when he's older, I remember he didn't like to go out with fireworks. He didn't like to go out with that. And he was a conscious objector. He wasn't like fighting on Normandy or nothing. He was just, he told me about things he saw and heard, but he wasn't out there fighting and killing. And he wasn't in OSS, or the SOE or nothing. I like Minority Report. And I know the movies I like weren't reviewed that well. Another film I like, Elysium. I'm talking about that tonight. I looked and I looked and I looked, and I didn't see any really political reviews, serious political reviews of Elysium. So we're going to talk about that tonight. I don't think it did that well. Brad Pitt, the girl that was on, that played Clarice and Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. She was in all of them. She was an FBI agent. I don't think anybody's ever broke it down. We're going to do it today. I remember this came out when I was still an InfoWars person. And one day I'm going to lay it out, the timeline of Alex Jones turning into a totally fascist network. But 2012, 2013, he was still kind of on the fence. It was getting there, but I don't think he was quite there yet to where it's like pro-Trump. I remember the day when Alex came out and said Trump was the answer to our prayers. That was the end for me. That was the beginning of the end. I want to talk about this because the only real people that talked about this were Alex Jones and Stefan Molyneux, and I don't think conservatives should be able to just take away from us a beautiful film about social issues like Elysium was. That's one of my problems is that we don't really we don't handle that stuff. I don't think a lot of liberals. I mean, like the conservatives say stuff, but I think a lot of liberals just we're not organized like that. Like Gun Girl going out and confronting people, and I don't think a lot of liberals do that. Like I don't think the average liberal. I'm not talking about your ideologue. I'm an ideologue. I don't think the average liberal's like, you know what? Let's go to Christian groups or Christian events and confront them about homosexuality. The average gay man's not doing that. The average gay man's not like, okay, give me a camera. They're not doing that. That's people on the right who say, all right, I'm going to grab my rifle and I'm going to drive 6 hours across the state to an area where I know by the time I get there, before I got the car, I'm outnumbered 10-1. That's a different mindset. I've done videos on that. I don't like that, and I don't think we should allow them to take our stories. Elysium's a great film, and Elysium is a film on social issues, just like another great movie I like is Ecostorm. I think that's Eagle. Great film. That's not as realistic. I don't think that we as a people in the world will ever be that organized. I don't think that'll ever happen. Ecostorm's great because it was people not governments that decided to come together. But it's unrealistic because I'm not sure that technology exists or will exist in 100 years. I'm not sure technology would help us with climate change, mitigate it. And third, I'm pretty sure we would not be able to come together unless things got really bad, which I didn't see that. Things got really bad and different. We'll have a discussion later on, another discussion. In that movie, it showed you that you had these Caucasians behind the scenes that wanted the wars to keep going and wanted to use global warming, climate change as a weapon to take down the rising brown majority. These are films you can watch 10, 20 years on the road. Just like I can watch Minority Report today, and it came out in 2001, and this is 2020. You can watch those films down the road because the message remains the same. Minority Report, when the guy talks about it ain't the system, people behind the system, is always the people. That's true. We see that with what Trump did, taking information and hiding it on top secret servers. It shows you the technology's not bad. So when you get a fucking criminal in the White House who abuses the systems, then you have a problem. Minority Report, to me, was a film that was ahead of its time. It was telling us about a world of increased surveillance. It was about a world of... I always thought Minority Report, as much as I liked it growing up, it was one of the first futuristic films I seen. It was kind of my first taste of that. You didn't have any of these films that hadn't come out yet. I saw Gattaca too later on. Gattaca was good too. Gattaca was... It's okay. Oh, Ethan Hawke. I thought when they get in the elevator and they flashed their eyes, that was the identification, flash. I thought that future was a mark of the beast. That and the scanning of the face. I thought that was basic. Like, that's, to get that world, that's the mark of the beast. Also, I got with that film that was much more of a militarized society. Minority Report, more militarized society. That was more of a society with militarized. Basically, in that kind of society, the differences between local governments and federal were kind of no more there. That's good, that's bad. But whereas, like now, for example, most time when police do things, they're investigated, or criminal cases by police are investigated by the state. The movie was fits. Other things too. I just figured that's a different thing they're advocating there. If you look at it, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. That breaking down of the federal governments, and too many rednecks out here. I remember when Alex Jones took my Elysium, and he put forward this notion that it was nonsense and it was propaganda, and I remember them. They went hard on it. I never saw it. See, back then I had to watch InfoWars to understand what they're mad about. I had to go get my program, get my briefing. Get my briefing to get me mad. That's why when they talk about liberals operate off of outrage, conservatives do too. That's what Fox News is. That's what InfoWars. And when they do these 20-minute segments on transsexuals and they're trying to make the kids gay, they're trying to make your kids gay. That's the same thing. They're doing the same thing. They're taking little things out of context, and the whole world's against white men. White men are losing. White men are losing their power. Look at these gay people. They're able to have rallies and they're not being killed or they're not being abused. What are they protesting about? At least we're not murdering you. That's, you should be happy we're not killing him. I think that the attack they did on Elysium, Alex Jones did, was the attack that they knew they would not be the majority in the next 50 years. I think it'd be much sooner than that. But let's I'm gonna play the game. I'll play the ball. I'm learning that to work with my allies and work with people who are experts. I'm the guy on the line. But I realize I have to work with Roland Martin and people like that. Their views on the future. Alex knows that white is not the future. Period. And they know that. And so Alex used that whole movie to say, see, this is what socialist politics get you. This is what letting the blacks take over and the Mexicans take over get you. Without saying that. But that's what he basically did. And the idea that Elysium was bad because at the end the world was going to be destroyed anyway. At least they had a little area where everybody could live on. Now they could live on there forever or 100,000 years, whatever. Now everybody's going to die. It's just going to be, they're going to lengthen it a little bit longer. I think Alex Jones puts forward the agenda that he and his family would be on Elysium. And other mostly white people. Because the movie made it where it's mostly white people on there. And it was all brown people. Brad Pitt was the only white person on the ground, I think. Might be like, yeah, he was like one white. There was an army white guy too. But mostly white. Let's understand something. When I saw Elysium, and you might disagree, that was the result of climate change and pollution. Yeah, it was overpopulation. There was a lot of other things that made that society be so destroyed the way it was. So, Mr. Jones, that would be your children on the ground too, working in the mines, being exposed to chemicals, being exposed. Brad Pitt got sick because they made him go into a chamber to fix something, and he got sick and was gonna die. And they were like, "I don't want him getting sick on that stretcher." That movie was about the workforce being dehumanized. That movie was about human beings, their lives meaning nothing. It was about the very super rich living somewhere where they could live in harmony and cancer-free, disease-free, while the rest of us are on the ground dying and are destroyed. And they use robots to maintain control. It's crazy because conservatives are like, I meet these rednecks. They don't want to, they a lot of truckers like this. They don't want to use self-checkout. I love self-checkout. I have no problem with that. A lot of these people I deal with can't even count. Can't read, can't understand half what I say. They're ignorant. You don't like robots because you think it's going to take people's jobs. You think people need to protest against robots. It's not going to happen. You're against robots, but you don't. I guess they don't get that part of it. That's something the rich would use to keep us in check, because we would be destroyed and they wouldn't. You're mad about robots, but you're not mad at the fact that capitalism is leaving you behind. That's the point. You know what I mean? It's like me getting bit by it's like if a snake slithered up in here and bit me in front of y'all. And I'm fucking dying. And I'm mad because I got bit. And I'm not mad about the man that opened the door and set loose a snake. I'm not mad about, what brought the snake in here. I'm just like, oh man, I got bit. That's their mindset. Like you don't even realize that's the mindset of the conservative. They think they would be on Elysium because they back capitalism and they believe in capitalism. But we're talking about billionaires and trillionaires would be on. I realize, looking at the movie now, I'm going to watch it here in a second, that was the very rich. And that's what they're doing. They're going to suck this planet dry. We'll all be down here buying oxygen, trying to survive. That's the reality I see. And like I said, we as liberals, we don't have these discussions. We don't talk about sci-fi movies. They're telling you. They're putting forward stuff in front of your face, and you want to go talk about football, and Stephen Molyneux is going to sit here and break it down and say it's communist propaganda. I have problems with the left. I am not just somebody that's just 100%, liberals. I'm a socialist. I think the Democratic left in this country has a lot of problems, a lot of issues. I am by no means just the left is best. No, and I think that anyway. Elysium, that was a very interesting movie because it put forward that the idea of overpopulation and climate change and pollutants and all that stuff, and them abusing the workforce and victimizing the workforce. Mr. Jones, that would be your family. All these white people that listen to him that live in Kentucky in those areas, where do you think they would be at? They do work in the mines too. That's what I don't understand. They're so conservative, but yet they're not billionaires. They're not millionaires. There's probably no reality of them ever becoming that. Or knowing anybody who's that. Or even knowing anybody that's related to that. But yet you want to defend, I guess, meritocracy without merit? I don't know. It's a good movie. And a part of me thinks they don't really put those movies forward. There's not a lot of discussion about it because of the same reason you don't hear about the yellow vests here in America. You don't hear about that. That's still going on overseas. You hear nobody talking about that. Hong Kong protests, no one talks about that. The Afghan war documents, they didn't talk about that too long, did they? That's already old. You see what I'm saying? That's why I have plenty of problems with the left in this country. Plenty. Understand me. I am not just sitting here saying voting in a Democrat solves all these problems. But it was a really movie was ahead of its time. The guy runs in there and starts killing his own people, throwing grenades. He says, "You ain't never had a president before." That was Donald Trump. Woo, that was Donald Trump right there. Peace out.